and welcome to Label Sessions Presents, the podcast where we talk to the most interesting people about all the things you need to know over the next 100 days, from innovation to business, design, tech, and culture. I am Fuzlin Esau, and today we're joined by 5 new label mates, all experts in their field, as well as Josh Nixon from the Label Sessions team. Hello, everyone. A quick rundown of who we're chatting to today. So we have Liza Sutherland, the investor who knows what it takes because she's been there before. Liza brings 2 decades of hands-on startup experience, founder, funder, advisor, and accelerator lead, backing outlier funders who don't fit the mold but go on to raise millions. Then we have Cristina Lazic, Google products brand strategist by day, and then an Ibiza DJ by night. Cristina fuses tech world precision with creative soul, building brands, platforms, and record labels that make as much sense in a boardroom as they do on a dance floor. Then hello and welcome to Dondi Dix, the turnaround operator who brings calm to chaos. Dondi leads high-stakes business transformation with many sharp system thinking and people-first leadership, fixing structure, stabilizing teams, and making herself redundant when the job is done. And then a big welcome to Al Bucknam, the growth strategist guiding clean energy through the messy middle. Al brings calm clarity to scaling clean energy and industrial tech companies, fixing leadership teams, broken sales engines, and strategic direction when the stakes get the highest. And then welcome to Toby Laws, the brand strategist who makes every touch point count. Toby turns sprawling customer journeys into sharp, consistent brand experiences, whether he's launching foldable tech in clean rooms or reimagining Guinness from the ground up. So this is all about Burberry, and Burberry has really dug deep into its heritage to create a brand that feels much more current than it has for years. And at the same time, it's been able to cut costs really fast. The result is that after years of decline, one of the UK's most iconic companies finally seems to be turning a corner. What lessons can we learn from this transformation at Burberry? And why do so many companies find it easy to talk about transformation, but find execution so hard? Toby, I think this is a heritage.
That's really brand. I think there's this interesting thing, like revisiting heritage isn't about sort of looking backwards. It's about rebooting into your core values. And I think you touched on Guinness earlier. Like Guinness has been around since 1759. You know, it's one of the most iconic brands, but still the fundamental values of what Arthur Guinness created 250 plus years ago are still exactly the bedrock for what the brand proposition is today. And I think, you know, you don't need to go too far, like remove from what your brand values stand for. You know, there's some of the best work we've done and are doing now, to Josh's point about the sort of growth trajectory that Guinness is having at the moment, is by looking back at the archives and looking at what's worked. And if those ingredients worked yesteryear, they're 9 times out of 10 going to work tomorrow. And I think actually it's really important that you look back to look forward. I think Burberry have done exactly that. And, you know, there's a lot of brands that are doing exactly that right now, and it's playing to their strengths.
And Cristina, I was going to ask you about this, because a big part of like Burberry's transformation, as one of our Labelmates is a wonderful guy called Dave Chase, who is the director of music at Burberry, and brought a bunch of sort of music curation and sort of advisory into their brand. And obviously, you know, your expertise as a DJ and as a musician, you know, music is a really powerful thing, and obviously it's very intertwined with fashion. I was wondering what your thoughts would be in terms of like how, you know, it can go towards transforming a brand like Burberry.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the more you keep authentic and the more you build a compelling story that people can understand, the easier it is to connect with people. And this applies to anything. So you mentioned Burberry going into the realm of music. We can also talk about Red Bull or a lot of other brands that go into the realm of music, and they create cultural moments and experiences. And experiences are what people remember the most. Like, so it's easier than to connect with a brand if you create this connection. And by the way, I'm wearing right now a jacket from a brand called Worth Behavior, which is an apparel brand. And they're organizing a lot of events related to music exactly for this purpose. So they are producing good quality products, but at the same time, they connect with an audience. And I'm pretty sure they're going to be able to, you know, evolve, keeping true to what is the communication method. And maybe that's something where Burberry has failed, where other brands may have not encountered the same issues. Like you keep up with whatever is the communication and the way in which you can get to the audience. I want to give an example again from the music realm, if that's allowed.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
it's about a DJ that was, has been very big for the past, I would say, 30 years. Richie Otwin, master of techno music. Like what Richie has been able to achieve over the years is to have always been able to keep up with the trends, getting involved also as, for example, as an investor or as a partner of startups, for example, involved in the world of Web3, or like, music accelerators for record labels, in really merging the worlds of tech and music. And in this respect, even if his music can connect well with the generations who were going raving in the 90s, still is also able to be very appealing with Gen Z, for example, because of that. So I think that in the same way, brands from any industry, really Burberry would come from the apparel industry, should be able to keep genuine, deliver clear message about what their story is about, and what makes them iconic, or really able to be relatable to something and to people, but then also adapt to the moments and the way in which they communicate to the audiences. And of course, now there should be attention paid to the new, generations, especially Gen Z.
I'm no, I don't know a lot about consumer brands or fashion. I mean, look what I'm wearing. But this whole conversation makes me think back to the Netflix Blockbuster thing. Blockbuster could have been the player because their business fundamentally was delivering an entertainment experience to their customers in a certain way, and they just didn't adapt to the new technology. They didn't. So it's all comes back to if you're in a mature company in a mature industry, you have to reinvent yourself. Burberry, I imagine, has to reinvent themselves because I haven't worn a suit for maybe once or twice a year for the past 5 years, and that's true of many people, at least here in the States. So that trend changes what Burberry is going to deliver, but it doesn't mean they have to change their identity or their brand.
May I add something to that? Because you remind me of another apparel brand. I'm from Milan, Italy, and I'm sure all of you know Giorgio Armani. He passed away just last month, I guess. But he had, several brands that were tackling different types of audiences, from the very premium suits to Gen Z. And again, that's a brand I collaborated with. Like Armani Exchange is the brand that is more like, hoodies and very sporty type of items. And in this way, they're able to keep the timeless elegance story that they've always been, showing to their, people generally. But they can really adapt it to the various audiences. And that's why they're still very appealing, not only when it comes to very premium suits, but also to the new needs. After COVID, people don't need suits that much. So they are also appealing in that front.
One of my clients was head of digital transformation of Burberry. So I've asked him for some notes, which I'm reading through now, as he knows them very well. And he's now creating bespoke on-demand clothing for disabled people, which can scale to all sorts afterwards. So that's his startup and helping raise investment, which is very interesting. But basically, he was saying that Burberry has always been on the forefront of using technology. They're one of the first companies to live stream their runways, and they're always looking at things. And one of the things that they got wrong, according to my client, is basically they went after maybe too much of the market on the lower end, having just a t-shirt for £400 with the logo. And people are like, yeah, but is that really high end? And isn't that what the brand is? So they need to stick to quality, high-end clothing, the trench coats, the scarves, continue to keep that. But they realized that their new audience was younger generation. So, and that's another mistake, is going for streetwear. And that didn't quite work either. So I think what's working now is they're sticking to their core, but they're I guess, able to reach a larger audience through technology, and it's how using that. And it's not about getting rid of people and cutting costs, and because you still need people to do all the work. But it's knowing how to use technology in the right way and communicate with people while still, keeping true to your heritage and your brand. So it's having that balance, really. If I'm communicating that in the right way.
Well, so to some extent they experimented too, because they tried with streetwear, didn't work, then they tried with the digital marketing, it worked. So
But I think all this comes back to marketing principles, right? Consumer first insight. Like, what's the consumer demanding, and where does your credibility lie? Like, Burberry's always been the trench coat manufacturer. I think they made them in the war. I think that's where it stems from. British brilliant tailoring, and that's where they're going back to now. So exactly that piece about heritage, linking what they do best with a true cultural insight or consumer based insight allows them to win in the market that they're operating in. And I think the turnaround looks fantastic. And once you start narrowing those peripheral products in just a few, you can make those few even better, and you can start building the quality credentials again that they're established and they're renowned for. So yeah, it's a brilliant turnaround.
Yeah, and I think with the large amount of data for all these companies is using AI to save them an immense amount of time. Because I think in the past it was 4 days to look over these Excel spreadsheets to figure out where to go next, where now it can be done in an hour or two. So they can save a lot of costs using new technologies, just analyzing data. So it's nothing new, but...
Love that. Dondi, anything from you in terms of this interesting space that Burberry now finds itself in?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I heard from everyone is this idea of what is the double-edged sword of execution. So we've talked about fail fast. It's very important. We need to be nimble. We need to adjust. But there are other times when a company is ready to make that big bet and to really integrate what they need to do in that heritage brand. But when it comes to effective execution there, a lot of people need to remember that it is that marathon. It is that steadfast, bringing the people along that is going to carry people through that. Innovation's one thing, but switching your training from those sprints as well as those that need to run that longer game, I think is where I wish Burberry the best. I think they're doing a fantastic job, and I can't wait to see what happens in the next 5 years. But we've all seen other companies where it was the execution where it fell down because of a lack of change management, principles for the longer term.